I'm Michael Fisher, craft beer enthusiast and industry professional. I'm on a journey to find some people whose professions or hobbies revolve around the fermentation of malt and hops. We're going to dive into their passions and share some conversations over their favorite brews. So join me as I bring the brew to you. Welcome back to round 2, season 2 of Brew To You. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, and we're coming to you today from Fatheads Brewery in Middleburg Heights, Ohio. I'm here today with the brewmaster and partner of Fatheads, Matt Cole. Matt, thanks for coming along.
Thanks for having us.
So Matt, give me a little history lesson about Fatheads.
Well, Fatheads was actually founded in 1992 by Glenn and Michelle Benigni in the South Side in Pittsburgh. It was one of the first craft beers, I would say, in the Pittsburgh market. I attended the University of Pittsburgh and started working at the Pennsylvania Brewing Company in 1992. Knew a lot about Fatheads, and they were doing some great stuff.
Fatheads is from Pittsburgh as a brand, but Fatheads beer has always been from Cleveland, Ohio.
As a Fatheads brewery, it's always been in Ohio. We had signed a lease on the original brew pub, which is in North Olmsted. So it was going to be called Aviator Ale Works, and our idea was to kind of play off the history of aviation in Ohio. The air races were as big as the Indianapolis 500 and the Kentucky Derby and all that kind of stuff. We all know the economy kind of took a dive in 2007, 8. We really couldn't get the doors open. And so I was, digging for any kind of investors I could. And as fate would have it, I approached Glenn and Michelle on a whim to see if they would have any interest in investing. And we kind of put our heads together and figured it might make more sense to go with an established brand than a startup brand. Then, that led to becoming a Fatheads. Our beers were pretty well received right out of the gate.
Let's talk about the first beer you brought here, Dire Wolf Imperial Stout with coffee, dark chocolate, and molasses.
I love what Wolf Ridge Brewing is doing in Columbus.
We were actually fortunate enough to film one of our episodes at Wolf's Ridge. Their staff was fantastic, got a great behind-the-scenes tour.
I had a great experience. The food was fantastic, the settings were, the whole atmosphere was great, and I was really blown away by their stouts. The quality of the package says a lot. They care as much about the way it looks as what's probably inside the beer, so they're doing a dynamite job.
And you can smell the molasses from here.
Yeah, inky black, pretty opaque.
Yeah, good head color.
Yeah.
This is a knife and forker.
It's definitely rich. I mean, this isn't something you're gonna sit down and drink a six-pack of.
I'll be honest with you, for almost 11%, it is not particularly boozy at all.
And they make great lagers too. So that's one thing that I love when I go to a brewery. If you can cover all styles well, that says a lot. I mean, a lot of times you go in and it's an ale and there's different colors and they all kind of taste the same. And we're one of those breweries that, we want to do all styles well, and it requires investments. And, I appreciate breweries that can cover the whole gamut of styles, and it's not easy. It's not easy.
Before you ever decided to brew a beer, before your first beer, you had to be a craft beer lover. You had to be like, man, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Now I want to make it.
I started homebrewing in 1991, so I think I was, in my early 20s.
I'm sure you've had, over the course, as everyone has had, something that just didn't quite go right in the brew house, and you ended up flushing.
I think we probably dumped about 25 batches of beer in this new brewery. I mean, a lot of it was obviously processing and valve sequencing and things like that. I mean, we don't want to put beer out there that doesn't meet our standards, and we would rather take a financial hit and get it right the second time than put something out there for the sake of trying to pay bills.
So moving into beer 2, I'm really excited about this. This is actually one of my favorite beers from this brewery. So just tell me what you brought here.
This is JFB. This is Rain Delay, International Pale Ale. Just a really awesome beer. So I believe that beer has won quite a few medals at the Great American Beer Festival.
The brewery is 100% a repeat offender here on Brew To You and has consistently been my favorite beer from them.
Really something to be said about going and doing your homework and paving your own trail and paying your dues. And Paul's paid his dues, and it shows by the quality of his beer.
Clearly, you didn't just show up and meet with Glenn and be like, oh, boom, and now we have this enormous facility. Where did you pay your dues? Where did you cut your teeth? How did you get here?
You know, I started out as kind of a student sales rep for the Pennsylvania Brewing Company when I was attending the University of Pittsburgh. And along the way, I got to attend some beer festivals and meet some really good folks and kind of pick their brain about the profession. And really, it was Ed and Carol Stout. It was Ed in particular that I was at a beer festival. And I told Ed I wanted to be a brewer. And Ed said, do you like to read books? And I said, yeah, I like to read books. He said, do you like to clean? I said, oh, I can clean with the best of them. He said, you can be a brewer. And I left that festival going, I'm going to be a brewer. I'm going to figure this out. So, you know, attended some homebrew workshops. My homebrew was getting better. Eventually attended the Siebel Institute, did the 2-week short course. And then my beers got a lot better.
Well, let's not.
Yeah.
I've always been tempted to just drink out of one of these, but you get this citrus like right away.
Oh yeah, almost mango. I think this might have some Galaxy in it.
I'm a huge fan of IPAs that don't linger.
Yeah, no, it's clipped. That's what we call it. It's kind of a nice clip finish. It's that snappy finish that kind of leaves you wanting another sip. That's why I have a hard time sometimes with these the hazy IPAs and the fullness of them. I mean, this is dry, crisp, clean. It's resiny. I mean, West Coast IPA and International Pale Ale are definitely more in my wheelhouse.
All right, sliding into beer number 3. Definitely a recognizable can and recognizable brewery here. Who do we have?
Oh, we have Jackie O's, Java the Stout. Chocolatey, roasty, almost pillowy, fluffy, round.
Their graphic artist had a day and a half having some fun on that.
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I get is, just wonderful kind of a mocha Java kind of nose. What I love about this beer is some coffee stouts tend to be kind of acrid and a little sharp, acidic on the finish. To integrate the coffee into other components in this beer, everything's melds so well together. You know, I love the fact that they're using, you know, local roasted coffee. So, you know, they're supporting local, but it's just a well-crafted beer.
Yep. Good solid beer for sure. So moving into our 4th beer here, another repeat offender here on Brew To You, and another one of my favorite beers.
Well, Columbus Brewing Company, Bodie. Amazing double IPA. Everything they do is awesome.
Just a darn good beer. I'm not a huge high ABV consumer. However, this is one that I can get out of control on.
Well, I think this one's only 8%. So, I mean, as far as double IPAs, 8.3.
8.3.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the lower end, I think.
You get through the 6-pack.
No, I couldn't drink a 6-pack, but I could get into 2 or 3 of them, I bet. Right there, I can pick up some of those hops.
I'm gonna tell you, hop juju has never been my thing. I'm saying it in front of you.
Okay.
It wasn't a stylistic thing, it was just, I wasn't man enough. I wasn't ready for that beer.
They've invested in technology. They've got a really nice German Braukon system like we do. And those little bit of extra steps that you take, they get to know the growers. They're out in the experimental fields. They're doing everything they can to basically make their beer stand out in a very convoluted field. And I respect them for that.
Well, we're supposed to move into beer number 5, but you had mentioned off camera that you had something special planned, and I'll be honest with you, I hope it's a Fatheads beer since we haven't even had any yet.
We can change that.
Perfect. Now, I gotta say, I don't recognize this particular Fatheads beer. Tell me about it.
For the past year, we've been piloting hazy IPAs in our small test brewery, and this is kind of what we've come up with. And this is an experimental hazy IPA. I'm not going to tell you what the name's going to be. This is our first attempt at it at the new brewery. More hop forward than I think a lot of hazy IPAs. It's got that juice-like character that everybody seems to love. We're pretty happy with it. It's going to need a little tweaking along the way, but this is supposed to come to market sometime in March. So why don't you crack it open? To me, it smells a lot like mango and papaya juice.
Yep. I will say, 100% Brew To You exclusive. Oh man, that's gonna be fun.
There's still residual sweetness in this beer, but it's not It doesn't bog your taste buds down because it's really all about the hops. There's just enough malt to hold the hops in check. We blend yeast together, which most breweries will use one yeast. So we've really kind of dug into the anatomy of hazy IPA.
And that brings us to our fifth beer. If you've been following along, you understand that the fifth beer has a unique question for my guest. But before we get to the beer, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, B Squared. Matt, do you play much golf?
I don't play golf.
Well, if you ever make it to a golf outing, I hope B Squared supplied the swag because they are the best. With over 20 years experience, B Squared has been taking care of nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, friends and family with some of the coolest, most unique golf apparel and swag out there. Beyond golf, if you're thinking, hey, I work for a craft brewery, well, can I get swag from B Squared? Absolutely. If you want to look good in the streets, just like fatheads, give B Squared a call. As a guy in the world here that is known for having obviously some of the best beer brewed in Ohio, what I would consider to be some of the most stylistically accurate beers, you've got the medals to prove it. So when you're in the world and you're saying, man, I want to try a beer that's going to, be stylistically accurate or the quality control measure there, what's the beer?
I mean, I love German lagers. I love technically sound brewing. And if I want to drink a few beers, usually I'm gravitating towards something that's a little lighter and a little crisper. Progress Pils has always been one of those beers that I enjoy. And I think Market Garden does a great job making Germanic styles.
And so I'm a huge fan and a firm believer, obviously like yourself, that if your brewery's making a good light version beer, whether it be a Pilsner or a Kolsch, that really is a testament to the quality of the brewery.
I smell kind of a crackery kind of malt characteristic that came off. I mean, from where I'm sitting right now, I can actually smell the malt.
Sitting right here, you smell the malt, but I'm even getting the hop aroma. Well, let's not.
Cheers.
There's something to be said about how hard it is to get a beer to be this bright and this clear. But then there's also that repeatability. There's definitely a rash of breweries out there that are like, we can't figure out how to make the same beer twice, even though we did the same recipe. I think it's also a testament to the brands out there, whether it be Headhunter, which has been such a staple beer for you for so long, Bell's Two Hearted, and still a growing brand.
It takes really healthy yeast, good pitching rates, adequate oxygen, regimented fermentation process to produce these beers day in and day out. So hats off to them. It's an extremely well-balanced beer. And Andy Trevicum, who's the brewmaster there, hired me back in 1996, I think. And that's not why I picked the beer. I picked it because he's a damn good brewer and a great friend, and I appreciate what they're doing down there.
Well, that about wraps it up for this round of Brew To You. I want to thank Matt again for having us out here to the brewery here in Middleburg Heights. Matt, thank you.
Thank you.
Follow Fatheads. Check them out on all social media platforms. Check out their website. Make a detour. Stop here. The beer's fantastic. The food's fantastic. We'll catch you on the next round of Brew To You.